Good morning, everybody.
Morning, everybody.
Morning. Good to see you. Looks like we got a pretty full house today.
We do. Look at that.
Anyway, we're full up here with I got stuff coming on my screen here. Pardon me a moment. Okay, can't have more than one thing going on at a time. Anyway, we got a full crew this morning. And it's good to see everybody. And I was telling Bill how I was mad at him now for showing me how to make those trees, because I've been doing that. Yeah. So anyway,
so you need to keep track of how many of them that you make and what you end up with on your layout.
Oh, I will. I had a count of the woodland scenics trees I've got on there, and I've forgotten what that is, and that's over 100, I think, of those.
Really?
Yeah, but they're so skinny. They're so skinny. They don't cover a lot of space. I wouldn't need as many of the furnace filter trees to cover the same space because they're much wider, much fuller.
Yeah.
So that's my plan, is to kind of mix them in with that. I'll pull some of the other ones out from where they are now and put some of these others in and see how they look. It may end up all the woodland scenics come out, and I go with all the other ones because I like them that well. They really do look a lot better.
Yeah.
Why can't you just put them in to fill up an area?
Well, I that's what I plan on doing. That's how I'll start, is sticking them in amongst the woodland scenics trees,
right,
and see what it looks like. But they may look too odd because they just look completely different. There's a few places where those look really good, and in some places it's like, they look like a trunk with stuff stuck to them.
Yeah.
They just don't look right.
What do you think the difference is?
As far as,
why such the discrepancy?
Well, the woodland scenics the trunks on them, even the big ones, the 8-inch ones, they're not real wide out this way. Now they make a deciduous trunk that you can, shape. It's a plastic covered wire is what it is. But you get these and they're flat. They're, not flat.
Okay.
They're a straight trunk, and the branches come off.
You were talking about. Okay.
And you got to twist them, and so they don't come out very far. And then you glue on the foliage on them, and they just don't. They're not as full, for one thing. Looking, there's a big difference in how they look. I'll show that one of these days, but.
Yeah, what they're good for, and you can make them look decent. Claude's looks decent. I've got a bunch of them on the N scale layout. Is like if you get building the furnace filter trees or any other tree that you scratch build, you always put those to the front and then kind of blend in the other woodland scenics into that background to make the forest look dark and fuller. So you can use them for that forest perspective piece.
Filler.
Yeah, I plan on doing that. And we went right on by and didn't say hello to everybody in the chat.
I'm just blown away. We got 25 people in chat this morning, and I know.
Did you get all their names?
Well,
tell us who's here.
I hope I get you all, man. Jeez, good morning. We got the Eagle Creek Railroad Closet Branch. We got Container Man, Rob T-Man. We got Digger. We got Sparky, Boilermaker Rick. We got Allison. We got Mark Pruitt. Good morning. We got Lee. Good morning. We got Steve Wigwag, Almar. Who else? Dwight Curley. Man, look at you guys. We got
Did you get Eagle Creek?
Yeah, I got him. And we got Gail. Good morning, Gail. And we got Mom and Son Rail Fan. I saw your video. That was really good. We got Ethan Armitage. Good morning. Good grief. Who did I miss? I know I missed somebody.
Don't forget my wife.
I did. I
got her.
I got her. Man, good morning, everybody. Welcome.
You always have to know where Gail is just to be safe.
Yeah.
You don't want her sneaking up behind you.
Woo. Yeah.
That's why the door is over there, and you have to circumnavigate the whole layout to get to where I'm at. I have time to prepare.
Well, ever since she scared us coming through the door of your shop that one time, I'm a little leery of her.
Oh, I forgot. Hi, I'm sorry. I forgot you.
I apologize, guys. I may lose my phone this morning. I've got it plugged in now, but I don't know if it'll stay on during the whole show or not. It didn't get charged last night, so
Well, it better.
if I leave, I'll have to let it charge up and then come back and and shut everything down. But anyway, if I leave, you guys can go as long as you want, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, it's good to see everybody this morning. And
Okay, I have a question to start off with. Maybe this will be a topic of discussion. So we were talking about counting trees, and I know that Claude has had a contest or two. Bill has had a contest. I have not yet had any kind of contest on my channel, not because I don't really want to. It's just I'm just trying to feel out how I want to go about doing it. So my question is, did you notice a spike or an increase of any kind in your subscribers as a result of having a contest on the layout?
Good question. For me, I've had a couple of them since I started into YouTube here, 4 or 5 years ago. I would pick up a few, but not like a noticeable spike. I tend to get, X number a week on average. I'd pick up a few additional, when I'd have a contest, but not a lot.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I might have picked up one or two. I was never really concerned about how many people I had watching anyway.
Me
But
either.
I did notice when I changed my channel name to include Model Railroad, that brought it up quite a bit. And I also noticed we've gotten a lot more people in here, newer people in here in this show, since I put the model railroading in the title. So that, I think, hits the algorithm for anybody looking for model railroading.
Yeah, I got a comment from Sparky. He said, how come Jerry's the only one that's done a video for his contest? You other four don't like $1,000 worth of train stuff. My apologies, man. I didn't know you were doing a contest.
$1,000 worth of train stuff.
Yeah.
Who's
It
giving
would
away
probably all be
$1,000 worth
standard
of train
gauge,
stuff?
right? How much of that $1,000 is going to be narrow gauge?
Yeah, they probably don't carry a lot of narrow gauge over there.
Well, and that's kind of the whole thing with me and Claude. We're a niche within the hobby, and it's not that I'm not interested in a lot of, I like modern diesels too and those kind of things, but there's a limit to, I guess, my overall interest in some of the other channels, just as a direct result of it's not my genre, and I understand that's reciprocated.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that just gloss over my channel because he's got steam engines. That's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's even though I've got diesels on mine, they're all early generation diesels because those are the ones I remember as a kid, and those are the ones I want to, I liked as a kid. I'm not into any of the modern, really long cars, the long diesels, all that stuff. I've never been into any of that kind of stuff. That's just me. Plus, you got to have a pretty good size radius to run those and make them look decent. That's, like I say, that's one reason I got the shorty arch roof coaches that I did. So they look a little bit better on a smaller radius because I've only got 25 inch radius on my layout. So
if it's not prior to 1950, I'm really not too much interested in it at all. Now, and I'll say this too about the contest thing. Early on, when I kind of first got involved in YouTube, I won a contest. I think it was Jim Tedesco. I can't remember. It's been over a year ago, maybe 2 years ago by now. and I won some standard gauge passenger cars. And I'm like, and I feel guilty now that I even won them. So if I do a contest, you can guarantee that those cars will be part of the
You're going to
winnings
re-gift?
because I need to give them away to somebody who will actually make use of them.
You're going to re-gift?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and again, I feel a little bit guilty that I haven't already done it.
Well, yeah. See,
I keep forgetting I have them. They're in a box buried somewhere, and I keep forgetting I have them. Every once in a while, while I'm digging through stuff, oh yeah, I forgot I had those.
yeah. I did the same thing. I had bought an RS3. Well, I had an Atlas one, and this was a Bachmann one, and I got a really good price, so I got it. Well, the Atlas one I thought looked a little better, so I didn't need but one. Probably didn't even need that one because I don't have that much switching I'm going to be doing with the standard gauge. And so I gave it away in a contest. But yeah, I'd rather see somebody get it, somebody else be able to use it as to throw it away or sell it on eBay. I mean, I've sold stuff on eBay in the past, and it's not hard to do, but it's a pain in the ass to have to ship it and all that stuff. And, and now, of course, the government's, on you too for however much money you're making off of that every year. So you have to be careful with that. Otherwise, you got to do all the tax stuff with that mess. Yeah. So I just decided not to do that. I'd rather give it away. I've given you stuff to use on yours. Yeah. And I've got a lot more that I'll end up giving away because I just don't want to deal with it. And I bought a lot more stuff. I've got a lot more stuff than I can use. Of course, before I started the layout, I didn't know how much I was going to need. And so when you saw it, you bought it because, especially stuff that you knew wasn't in production anymore.
That's kind of a key thing, like what you were just talking about, Claude. Like the first contest that I had, it was like multi-scale, N-scale, HO, and I had a little bit of O stuff. But it was stuff that I had accumulated and, perfectly good, a lot of it brand new, but I was never, ever going to use it again. So I made, piles of stuff that I would give away as part of the contest because it had no value to me because I know that it wouldn't work with anything that I was doing. And yet it was really good stuff for somebody who did need those kinds of things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if you've got a place to sell it, like going to a train show or something, you put it on a table and sell it. But some of the train shows and stuff, if you do that, they want a lot of money to be able to set up a selling table. Now, I'm sure not all of them do that, but a lot of them do. That's how they make their money to be able to rent the space and everything else. But, unless you have a store that you're bringing to a show to sell stuff, it would be cost prohibitive to do that. So you'd be better off walking the door and give it to somebody. But, that's me. I'm a little weird in that kind of way. I may buy something and turn around and give it away if I'm not going to use it because it's like, I'm not going to charge somebody for this. First of all, you got to find somebody that wants it, that'd be willing to pay for it. And to me, it's just not worth it. I'd rather give it to somebody that would take it and use it or take it and sell it. If they want to take it and sell it, I don't have a problem with that either. But I'm not out to make money off of that kind of stuff. I bought it because I thought I was going to use it. Anyway, I'm kind of crazy anyway. So
yeah. Cool.
So Jerry, what video did you make to enter into Sparky's contest? Because honestly, I didn't know Sparky was having a contest.
It's just a video to talk about Greeley.
Okay.
The meet and greet. I think I saw him. He posted.
Okay. I've seen some guys putting on like shorts, some stuff about that. Okay.
That's all.
Yeah, I sure
yeah,
wish.
We were talking about that just a little bit before the show. I would love to be able to go to that. Unfortunately, it's falling in the same year as the narrow gauge convention, and I have never been to the narrow gauge convention. And I'm afraid I can do one or the other. And I would rather go and look at stuff that's specific to my railroad and drop the cash that it's going to take my wife and go up there and do that rather than the meet and greet.
Yeah.
unfortunately. Now, if it would have happened to fall in 2 different years, I'd be there. I would find a way to go up there if it wasn't for having to decide between one or the other.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of in the same boat, and I was going to go to the narrow gauge convention in St. Louis, and then they had COVID hit, and they canceled that because that would have actually been easier for me to get to than Denver. It's a little bit closer. Now, for Dennis, it's probably closer to Denver than St. Louis, but
oh yeah, I'm 8 hours, give or take, from Denver.
Yeah, but I've always wanted to
I
go
could
to
easily
one.
make it there by noon, that kind of thing.
I've always wanted to go to the dedicated narrow gauge convention, and this will be my chance to go. And of course, now that I'm on a fixed income, I have to start picking and choosing what I go to. But yeah, I'd love to go to Greeley. In fact, I started to bite the bullet and do both, and I know the wife's not going to want to go up there and sit. So, and she's not going to want to run around with people I'm talking to up there. So, I wouldn't make her do that. So she wouldn't want to be sitting here for 4 or 5 days while I go up there.
No. Yeah.
So I won't be going to Greeley, but I will be up in Denver. Hopefully, be up in Denver. What is that? September?
I think so.
September.
That's going to be the one little hitch for us. That's right when my wife starts back to work. She's a school teacher, so whether or not she can take time off. Oh no,
Gail, you weren't supposed to say anything. Yeah, now the cat's out of the bag. I'm not rich, so there goes that dream. Anyway. Yeah, so anyway, it's a pick and choose kind of thing, and I'm kind of the same boat as Dennis as far as you got to pick whatever one you're going to go to. So, although I got a feeling Michael McCarville will be at Denver at the narrow gauge convention.
I'm sure he will be. He'll probably have a booth and
his club will probably have one. Yeah.
Yep.
Plus, he'll be selling his merchandise there too. He's got McCarville Studios stuff.
His most recent building, I can't remember what it is, a clothing shop, I think.
Yeah.
It is real close to one of the buildings that is in Basalt. The only real difference is the one that I need is a 2-story building and his is a 1-story building. But the false front is almost identical to, I can't remember what, Kelly's Place. I think it's either Kelly's Place or the building right next to it in Basalt. And I've been tempted to get it, but again, I'm going to try and scratch build a lot of things.
Well, that's one of those things you could kind of kit bash, maybe.
Yeah.
Kit bash or scratch onto that kit. I think most of the stuff that I've got up there, especially in the mines, is that it started with a kit, but it's had a lot of stuff added to it.
I might consider that just because I don't know.
Yeah. Well, if it's close enough on the front and that's what you want, but then you got to figure out how to get the second story on there.
It's real close on the front. Now, I'm not sure about the width of the building, but the way the door recesses in and the 2 big picture windows, it's just almost identical.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike wants you to send him a picture of your basalt structure.
Mike
McCarville.
Oh, I didn't even realize he was in the chat.
Yeah, he's in here.
I'll do that.
Well, I'll tell you, man, chat is on fire. We've got 37 people in chat. I don't think we've ever had. It's crazy.
Well, I know they're not here to see us.
No. Well, how about some of the new people that are in chat haven't said anything? Why don't you guys pop in and say hi?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see everybody. Welcome to anybody that's new. Most of the names I'm seeing, I've seen before, but
that's crazy.
But welcome.
Had a question back from Jeff. railroad enthusiast for me about winterizing my steam engine, and yeah, I do. It's really important to when you do winterize it, you've got to set it up on air and run all the water out of it that you can. You got to drain all the water out of the tender, so it doesn't, because those little copper airlines, if you get any water in those, they'll freeze and blow out your lines. So that's really important. I also have a heater out here that, if I know it's going to be well below freezing, I'll kick the heater on out here, just so if I did miss, some water in it, then hopefully that doesn't freeze. But I generally don't run it in the wintertime. Well, of course, this is the first winter that I've had it. It would be fun because they look really good, if it's really cold.
Oh, the steam, yeah.
Yeah, all the steam leaks make it really nice. But I'm not planning on running it until it warms up a little bit. And but right now it's just sitting over there and, saying, "Run me, please."
If you did run it in the wintertime, you'd have to have a place to drive it in, like a shop or something to drive it in that's heated, because you're not going to be able to sit and blow all that water out every time. I mean, I wouldn't want to do that.
You could do that here at the house.
Yeah, but
you're
transporting it back and forth. If it's cold enough, by the time you got back, even from Medford, where you can run it, that's the closest place to you that you can run it, right, Medford?
Yeah.
And by the time you got home, it could be frozen in those small lines.
It would have to be really cold for that, and I don't think I'd be out running it that cold.
Well, you'd have it in the back of the truck. You're going to have, the air's going to be blowing over it, and that'll accelerate the freezing process.
True. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would think it would be not very, very fun to take it out just for the day and then try to drain it before you go home, or worry about getting it home before before it froze. But
run it, when it's really cold. It's some clubs will actually have a New Year's Day meet where they'll get together on the first of the year for a meet and run, but they don't do that up here.
We did that with the RC club flying, and I was up there sometimes with snow on the ground, and guys had fashioned skis for their airplanes and stuff like that. But that was always the go out and no matter what the weather is, you show up on the first day. It was to appease the RC gods, which never seemed to help. Never seemed to help. But yeah, we did the same kind of thing. Well, Bill, have you done anything new?
Not substantially. I'll show you just a little bit of what I'm doing. Not a whole lot on the layout. I was actually this week just running it and having some fun.
See, this is why, Gail, right there.
So I'm sitting over at the workbench. I'll just kind of give a little bit of a pan. Always a nice view when I'm sitting over here where you can see all three of the layouts. Of course, it looks different because it's, like the farthest is closest, and then the middle, and then the farthest actually looks closest. But it's just kind of a good position to sit and enjoy the trains. So what I've been doing over this way is I've been working here at the bench, and I don't know if you can see it well, but I've been building a narrow gauge caboose.
Cool.
This was a resin, or excuse me, a 3D printed one that I got off eBay for like $5.
Wow.
Yeah, so I've been painting it this morning. I'm also going to build this probably this weekend, which is a little work boost. So again, a simple kit. I've got the, probably not the correct trucks for these kits. I got them off of, or at a hobby shop, just the Bachmann OM30, but I'll put them on it anyway. I don't care. And then I've been building other odds and ends for the service area. Series of little cranes, pallets. Project that I am going to start this weekend is I'm going to start building this log crane. So a nice little kit for there.
Who makes that kit, Bill?
Who is it? Let me, I don't remember right offhand. Let me see. Oh, let me flip through my pages here. Silver City models.
Oh yeah, I've got some stuff from them.
So
I'm
it should
gonna
be
Google that right now.
Yeah, so it should be a fun kit. And I was having a hard time finding stuff in O scale, but this is the prototype that this little kit was based off of from out of Minneapolis. So I've got a flat car that I put back into service last night. That was an old ON3 that I bought at a hobby shop. I changed out the trucks, lowered the couplers so it aligns with everything. I'm going to have this, when I'm done, sitting on top of that flat car on some rails so that it can kind of move, not literally, but just kind of looks like it can move back and forth on that flat car as it's doing its business. So it should be a fun little kit. And then once I get done with all of these, that's when I'm going to kind of start on that one, the square water tank. So
Yeah,
that'll
that's a good looking structure there.
That is a nice kit. I will do this, and then I'll scratch build the little storage area and dock area. But just in this area, you can kind of see how my little workbench and my little workspace is. Everybody's got different stuff set up. Got a host of HO scale Rock Island equipment just sitting up there because I grew up next to a Rock Island branch line. I've got my little workspace right here. Got a few paints that I've accumulated that I use. And then I've got most of this stuff is just full. Got a little air compressor, and I've got like 4 different sets for airbrushes that I've never even taken out of the box yet. One of these days. And over this way, again, more storage, O-scale stuff. I've got like cases of Super Tree material up underneath. I've got these little filing cabinets are full of, like this is ON30 materials in here. Down this one is all N scale that I haven't used yet to put out. Let's see, over this way, this is O-scale odds and ends. And I've got some O-scale cars in here yet that I've got to put together or rebuild and I can use. And then down this way, HO scale. Piles of stuff that eventually are going to be used on the layout.
Well, I could never have that space, Bill, because I'm not that neat.
Well, this, yeah, well,
Dennis and Roy can both attest to my shop not being neat.
Well, mine is, I cleaned it up before the show today, so I could a little bit.
Cheating.
I generally start my day cleaning the workbench. That's usually the first thing I do.
Yeah, I work through projects and then I'll clean it up.
Yeah.
But since I'm here, I'll just kind of show real quick. And I've done videos on it long ago, but you can kind of see how I do my backdrops. And I've got them for the HO scale as well. Totally removable, but it's just like, an 18-inch piece of pink foam board with another piece of pink foam board. Cool. And then, some fillers, depends upon my stuff, so that I can have that little bit of depth on the outside of the layout to give me a little bit more of what Claude, like what you do really well at, just kind of that transition piece.
Yeah.
But it's nice with this pink foam board is that, this is light. It only weighs maybe 2 pounds. And most of that weight is the plastic that I've got down here just to kind of keep it from getting crushed when I clamp it onto the layout.
Now,
and then it just sits
what is
on
that
a little
Bill?
lip. Say what?
What is the plastic, Bill?
It is actually materials that you can get at Home Depot for like molding around the house. It's the plastic stuff that, has replaced the wood in a lot of cases.
Dennis, it's extruded PVC.
Extruded PVC. And does it come pre-sized or did you have to cut that?
This was pre-sized.
Yeah, that's a trim piece.
Yep.
It's just like molded.
Is it like schedule 40 width?
Or
80?
It's dimensional.
Yeah.
It's dimensional for what trim would be, because they'll have
3/16.
Yeah.
They'll have trim. Yeah. They'll have some that are size of 1x4s.
That's cool. That's cool.
I've even seen it in a 2x4 size. So it just depends on what they actually have in stock. But yeah, it's just an extruded PVC.
Yeah.
It's called door stop
cool.
in the molding section.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's not expensive, and
Yeah,
you
cheap.
can get away with doing this. This is like one of the first ones that I did, and I put this wing nut on just to kind of hold it on both sides. You don't need it. I ended up using just the adhesive that you use for the pink foam board and smeared it on the later ones and just pressed it in place, and it holds it just fine. You don't need the the little bolt on it. But this works really good. It keeps it from getting crushed, and you can put a pretty good bite on that thing, and it just holds it in place. And then I've got just again a little lip that it sits on, and that's all you need. And it makes it quick and easy to move backdrops.
Bill, the only thing that's attaching that is that clamp, right?
Yep, that's it. That way I can take it off. And like for the HO scale ones, like the HO scale ones that I've got up in storage, they're done on both sides. So that I take the HO scale, and if I'm on switching on this side and I want to photograph, I can put my backdrops on the back side over there. If I'm going to the other side and I'm working over there more, then I can take those same backdrops off because they're reversible. And then on the other side of those is another scene, and then I can put them on this.
There is no off position on the Genius Switch.
No.
It is fun.
Are they printed or you made them?
Oh no, I made all of those.
The backdrops.
Yeah. So the backdrops, like this is all that I've made, and I painted on. Now there's like this particular one. This is the N scale one that would sit like right behind where I was sitting. One little building flat that's just kind of in the backdrop there. But otherwise, it's just this extra little width gives me enough where I can build up that transition piece.
Gives you like a little ledge. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That's a good idea.
And excuse me, Dennis, while I try not to make you sick. Now you can see up here, this is where I store the backdrops when not in use.
Right.
So you can see on this, both sides have got scenery on them. So that each side has a scene that matches up with the side that I'm showing over here on the HO scale layout.
That's really neat.
Very cool.
And then here's another N scale one. This one goes on the opposite side of the layout where I'm sitting, so that by the river scenes that I've got there, so that I can have a backdrop as I'm shooting video for the little N scale trestles that I've got.
Yeah, I think he makes all of us feel inadequate, Heath.
No,
That's what I said. I started off the show saying I ain't Bill now because he's got to be making those cotton picking trees.
that's all right. Trees are fun.
It's not bad. It's not hard to do. It's pretty easy.
And it's a perfect thing to do on a rainy day, a cold day. You can have fun in your layout, but you can sit there like you did. You did what? 24 trees or something. It doesn't take long to make a batch.
No.
And as we all know in layouts, you can make hundreds of trees and not even make a dent sometimes. So it takes a while, but you see progress as you're doing it.
Well, and it's like I said, it was a vast improvement. So as soon as I saw yours, I thought that's what I want to do. And that's not the only thing I stole from you. I stole the rock carving stuff from you too. I didn't do it as well as you did, but
well, it's all practice,
Yeah.
It's like everything. Everybody's got good ideas, and that's what I love. I see stuff that you guys do, and I'm like, yeah, okay, I'm going to do something like that. I see other YouTubers. It's a wealth of ideas out there, which is why I started into YouTube. Again, not to accumulate subscribers. I was happy when I got my first subscriber, but it's like, I have fun with the hobby and I like to share. And if I've got some ideas that others can find useful, that's great.
Well, it's like the video on my channel that's gotten the most views, and it's over 2,000 views, is nothing to do with my layout. It's how I wire a tortoise switch to a turnout, to work with turnouts and stuff. And it's because I know that information's needed out there. I just did it because somebody asked me to do it, to show them how I do it. And so I did a little short, gosh, not even very long. and it's not even very good, but I was showing how I do it and how I wire from the tortoise itself to the switch. And that's gotten the most views because it's a how-to kind of thing. But there's tons of ways of doing it. That just happened to be the way I did it. And that's, like I say, got the most views, which I didn't realize for a long time until I went into my YouTube one day and I was just kind of looking around, and that one was the one that had all the views on it. And so anyway, yeah, the people are always going to look for another way of doing something.
Yeah.
And I think that's what YouTube's the best for is getting that kind of information.
Yeah, there's a lot of different ways to do things.
Hey, Heath just
Human,
popped. Why don't you put that one up, Claude?
which one?
Heath, about
Yeah.
wiring.
Question about wiring turnout motors. Do you wire them on a separate DCC bus with separate circuit breaker? So if you run over the turnout in the wrong direction and trip the frog, you can still change the turnout.
They separate circuits.
I'm trying to figure out what he's
over the
talking
turnout.
about. A separate DCC bus.
My answer to that is no.
Mine are not wired on a DCC bus at all. The turnout motors aren't. They're all run off of what I'm powering the touch toggles with.
Are you talking about the frogs specifically, Heath, or are you talking about the motors?
Yeah,
If
you use a tortoise, that's the neat thing about a tortoise. Okay, here you go. Let's see. What do you ask? Actually, when he runs over turnout wrong, the breaker trips and I can no longer throw the turnout. What kind of turnout
So how
motors
you
are you
run over the
using?
turnout wrong? How do you run over the turnout wrong?
Yeah, I don't know
Because
I
you're
don't know
coming
what
across
problem he's
without
got.
throwing the turnout the direction you need to, like a human error kind of thing. Is that?
We need to get you on the show, Heath, so we can.
I'm gonna reach out to Heath sometime this
Yeah,
week.
Heath, you need to come on the show and I'm trying to wrap my mind around what these problems he's got. What kind of turnout motors do you use?
Here's what I will say, and what I think might be going on is that if you're throwing the polarity of the frog because the frog is getting thrown as a result of your circuit breakers detecting the short, if your circuit breaker's trip value is below the current that is sensing the change in polarity, you will flip the circuit breaker before the frog has a chance to change polarity. I experienced that on my reverse loop over here. And it was just a matter of going in to my PSX AR and or the PSX1, which is what I use. I don't know what you're using. But it was making sure that the value of what is going to throw the circuit breaker is underneath the value of what it takes to change the polarity on the frog. That's how I understand his question. I could be wrong.
Well, and is he using Arduino or LCC or something like that? So
I was thinking he was using Tam Valley frog juicers is what I think he was using.
Yeah, I've got some of those on mine and they work. I wired put them on.
But do you have a circuit breaker on the same? See,
I haven't installed circuit breakers in my layout yet.
But because that's something that I'm probably going to be dealing with my turntable. I would like to use one of those frog juicers on my turntable, but I'm afraid that the spike of the short circuit at the bridge might cause my circuit breaker to trip because that spike goes beyond what the circuit breaker will allow.
Yeah, I've had that happen. Even though I don't use circuit breakers, of course, your command station or booster, whatever you're running off of, will do the same thing. It just shuts everything down. And I've had it happen on a turnout where it didn't, it's at the end of the reversing section on the Y. And every once in a while, not all the time, but every once in a while, it'll go over that, depending on speed. If I go real slow over that transition, it'll do that. It'll shut everything down for just a second, and then it'll come back on.
Throw Heath's next question up there. He's got a whole paragraph.
Got a lot of questions.
Okay, it's not a automatic fraud polarity issue. It's that when operating remotely sometimes.
Remotely.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, don't set it wrong, dummy.
Hey, Claude,
Yeah, I don't know. I can't think of, other than if you use LCC and you make routes very intuitive, I have found that you have switches thrown the wrong way less often. I'm not going to say that I still don't accidentally throw a switch the wrong way, but as I've mentioned before, I'm not looking at a whole bunch of different turnouts to make sure they're aligned the right way. I'm pushing one button and then 4 or 5 turnouts aligned to a route, and I don't have to worry about it.
What did you say, Jerry?
So my question to you is, Heath's problem is he'll forget to change the turnout. My question to you now is, with those soft touch toggles that you use, where they set your turnouts to the route that you're going, they set all your turnouts to that route. Would that eliminate his problem?
I don't know, but see, not all of mine do that. You can through what they sell there at Touch Toggles, but the only place I've got it where it sets the route all the way through are my crossovers. So it sets both of those on the crossover, and then the one on my Y at the top of the mountain, he's got it set up for Y switches where you just have to hit the route. You're not hitting the turnout. You're hitting the route in between the turnouts. Okay. So then it switches the turnouts that need to be switched. But all the rest of my turnouts are all manual as far as, I hit a button and they move. They're not automatic.
It sounds like Heath's turnouts are somehow also interconnected with the DCC. That's kind of the part of it that I don't really understand, because he says if you come across the diverging route, it just disappeared.
Let's see here.
Oh yeah,
the frog side of the turnout on the straight side, you short out the layout, and then he cannot switch the turnout because the layout is because your turnouts are dependent upon the DCC power. Is that accurate? And because you've shorted the layout out and your DCC is not working, now I can't turn my switch.
Yeah, he said all of them are DCC controlled.
Yeah, that's why I wanted LCC. They're two independent. They're independent of each other, and that's where I think a lot of people get confused about LCC versus DCC. Is that though there may be ways that you can use them the same way, my entire layout is completely independent of DCC. All of the turnouts, all of the electronics associated with how I do what I do has nothing to do with DCC. All my DCC does is run the trains.
Well, so see, none of my turnouts are connected to the DCC bus.
Right, because you've chosen not to. Heath has chosen to use DCC to operate his layout in addition to his trains, and I'm not, I'm just saying that he's experiencing one of the issues, and I'm sure there's a workaround. I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, I couldn't help you because I don't do it that way. So
yeah,
unless I've done it and screwed it up and figured out how to fix it, I wouldn't know how to tell you how to do it. But
yeah, I wouldn't have a clue because I don't, it's just something I looked into on my N-scale layout. I looked into some of the block detection and things associated with DCC, and it looked way too complicated to me. And that's why I went with LCC, even though the initial programming of it is a little bit, I'm not going to lie, it's not user friendly, but once you figure it out and you get it conceptualized as to how it works, how it works is really simple. You just got to have to wrap your mind around how it does.
Yeah. Well, that's, I use the KISS system. Keep it simple, stupid.
Yeah.
For me, the simpler it is, the less trouble you're going to have with it. It may not do everything you want to do by doing that. Like you want the route control. Now, touch toggles, Barrett Hill has a system of being able to do that. I decided not to go that way. I want the hands-on of, okay, I've got to go here, here, and here. I want to do that. That to me is part of being an engineer of that train.
Sparky said to win his contest than it is to answer Heath's question.
Hey, Dennis, Mike, Deep Run has a question for you.
Who does?
Mike, Deep Run Railroad.
Okay.
Dennis.
Let's see if is this it? Yeah.
Yep.
Can you retrofit LCC into an existing layout and switching and block detection on DC? As I was looking at LCC for signal control. I don't really have a good answer for that. It would depend on, because I don't know enough about the DCC side of block detection and signal control. If all of that is a separate wiring bus, there might be a way that you could snip, so to speak, either end of that wiring bus and then put in the LCC hardware to the wiring bus and get it to work. But I don't know how all of that works, because I know, like my understanding with DCC, like just say for block detection, you have a module that can control X number, either 4 or 8 or whatever blocks, and then you have all this wiring that goes everywhere to those blocks. It's similar in LCC, but you have to, for every 4 of those, you have to add another little DCC module as you go. LCC, everything is on the same bus, and you don't have to add anything to it, so to speak. I mean, you kind of do, but you kind of don't. But every node talks to itself. So you don't have to add more decoder addresses. That's kind of my understanding of the DCC, is that you're creating more addresses for the system to look at, and all of those addresses have to go through the command station.
Good morning, Wilmer.
Morning, Wilmer.
I think we were all thinking that same thing.
Yeah.
Hey,
What's he talking about?
Wilmer had a question earlier for you, Claude and Dennis.
Oh, did he? I
Yeah,
missed that.
it was a while ago. What scale do you build in for your narrow gauge?
HO.
Gotcha.
The scale is HO, and then the gauge, of course, the gauge is different. And I run standard, a little bit of standard gauge, and then the narrow gauge is the main focus. But like, I've got 2 reversing loops on the standard gauge, and I use an automatic electric eye to switch that turnout that enters each loop. So I can turn on my standard gauge and let it run. It'll go in on the reversing loop. As it's in there, it'll turn the switch back. It works as a spring switch would on a real railroad. But models aren't going to work that way on a spring switch. So it acts that way. In fact, that's what they called it in their literature, and it works flawlessly. It's been really good. That way I don't have to think about doing that. I can turn the standard gauge on and then go over to the narrow gauge yard and switch around the trains going through the yard, because my yard is on one side of the standard gauge tracks, but they have to cross over to get to the mountain and up to the upper level. They have to cross over the standard gauge tracks to get over there. So you've got a traffic thing there. And I did that on purpose, so I'd have that interest in operation right there. But that spring switch deal and as a tracks, I think, is who makes it. And it doesn't cost very much, and it worked great. What else we got up here?
Okay, what is your contest, Sparky? Because Container Man says, it was real easy. turn the dial on, and let it run for hours until it decides to derail. Because I derail all the time. I could turn it on for 5 minutes and it derail. Is that what you're talking?
Is he talking about yours or mine? Mine, yeah, mine. We did that when he was here, when Roy was here at the house. We went up there and turned the standard gauge on and just let it go from loop to loop.
Okay.
I actually didn't derail. I don't think they derailed. I think the couplers came loose one time. But yeah, I put it in there for that reason, so I could turn it on and not have to deal with that as far as trying to run the train. It could just run on its own, and it works real well. So, yeah, he was talking about my layout. Okay, here we go. Eagle Creek says, failing that, it's breaking it all up into separate power districts or a dedicated turnout bus. Oh, they're talking about, I guess, yeah, detection blocks. And I decided not to go with detection blocks because I didn't want all the extra wiring. There's enough wiring under a layout when you do it simple. And I just didn't want to have to be under there all the time. Mainly because my back.
That's why I wire everything on the workbench upside down.
Well, the next part of the upper level is going to get done that way on mine. I was going to do it with the mining district, and then I realized because I wanted to do the switchback, it was going to be too hard to do that and get it set up where it needed to be. So I ended up building it up. I cut it all downstairs, brought it up in the cookie cutter shape, brought it up, and then started setting the levels and stuff like that, and then laid track on it. There's not that much track on it, so it wasn't a problem. But I will do it on the little town that's going to be up on the other part of the upper deck, because that would make it a whole lot better.
Okay. Okay, Sparky's contest. There we go. They do a promotional video of the YouTube meet and greet in May, telling people to go. So it's a promotional video. You just have to do a video. You don't have to be attending. I get it. Okay.
Okay.
Let's see.
And that's May 19th and 21st. Okay.
I wish I could
write
go.
that down. Yeah, I wish I could go too. I just, like I say, it's a pick and choose kind of thing. I'm gonna write that date down. So, 21, not 20.
Hi, Digger.
Yeah, because I was going to go for longer than that. I was gonna get up there early.
But let me show off my latest scratch build since we're in a lull here.
Got 8 minutes.
That looks good.
That's nice.
And that's simple too.
I haven't got the windows in yet or the door. The doors, you can kind of see it right here. I'm still kind of figuring out what I want to do with the door. I haven't.
Are your
made up
windows
my
and
mind
doors
yet.
going to be? What are your windows and doors going to be? Like Tichy or something like that?
These are Northeast scale lumber is what I've got, but this is a solid piece of 2x4.
It's totally solid.
Do what?
It's totally solid. You use the whole 2x4.
Yeah.
Why did you do that?
He's got it stacked up on there.
Why did you do that?
Well, because I've got more scrap 2x4 than I know what to do with.
Okay.
And if you glue 2 side by side and 1 on top, you can basically create a number of really simple structures and or add-on structures to other structures, and do it with like 4 cuts on a table saw. So, and then all I do is I glue on, this is Northeast scale lumber, board and batten. And then I'm using 3 different stains. I've got Builders in Scale Deadwood, which you can kind of see prevalent at the top here. And then Silverwood by Builders in Scale. And then Cordovan Brown by Hunterline.
Yeah, but how are you going to add interior and lights? That's what Heath wants to know.
He also wants to know how
Well,
people are it. If it's
how many people in your railroad, Heath, has looked at the interior and lights of your building?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Do you scratch
I've
build those?
got buildings that have interior lights on them, but when you're running your trains and
Yeah.
you're playing with the toys, this stuff gets kind of glossed over. And so other than maybe if and I do think there's a way, I just haven't decided how to do it yet, and that's to mill out.
Did you make
The
those
side's
window
already up,
frames?
but to mill out a little bit of the wood
Yeah.
here, drill a hole,
Yeah.
drill another hole here, and
You
you
can
could
add
probably
something.
put in a glowing yellow LED that would light it up like you would any other building.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you really wouldn't.
Well, I was going to say, Dennis, if you wanted to have like an open door where you're going to have the door, you just cut a notch in it, paint it black in there, and have the door askew.
Which, I've already got some ideas of how I'm going to approach some of my other buildings in that regard. Because what you could do is you could come in and you could mill out, an inch of this, say this was a 2-story building, and then you could slide in a whole nother kind of cassette of a plastic scratch built scene in there and then have a facade in front of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of different ways you could do it. The question is it worth the effort on a wooden structure, or would it be quicker and easier to do with a hollow structure? This,
I think
I've had this laying around because it's an offcut of another building that I did for the.
Well, I think it also depends on where is that structure going to sit.
This one, as right now, is going to be up front. But this is all an experiment. I hated how this turned out. I will never do that again. Now my pounce wheel worked out good. I couldn't find my pounce wheel when I got started, so I tried to do it with just a hobby knife, and it didn't work out very well. But this will sit somewhere on the layout until I decide that I've got something better in its stead. But it's a convincing structure.
So you're not going to keep
That's
it?
all that really matters.
You're not going to keep it on your layout?
Well, I mean, it depends on how the scene develops and whether or not I decide that I would rather have something better than this, because you can look inside of it, because this is an upfront structure.
He said he likes that idea. So when he gets frustrated,
Feel the break when you smash it with the hammer in frustration. Yeah, this will definitely take a hit.
Yeah, but it also depends
more
on what you want the building to be on the layout. I mean, you can go to any city, small or large, and there's going to be numerous buildings that aren't occupied at any given time or are not even being used.
Yeah. Well, there's lots of people who refuse to do an interior anyway, and then just run a piece of black cardboard in there. And other than, maybe perceiving a little bit of depth in the building, that's the only difference between this and the piece of black cardboard there, is the fact that if you look close enough, you can tell that it's a solid structure instead of a hollow structure. That's the only difference.
Yeah. And most people aren't going to bother with that.
Like I say, I've had about a dozen people now come and look at the time saver, and I haven't had anyone look into Amos Cutter and go, "Oh wow, look, you've got a full detailed interior in there." No one has noticed.
I looked in there, but I didn't say anything.
But you may have already known it was there too. And you're a model railroader.
Yeah.
There's a difference between the model railroader who's looking at your layout and anyone else. Which, I may get a few more model railroaders show up and look than other people, but I live in the middle of nowhere.
Mark said he was saying that more in jest than serious, but see, that's what happens, Mark, when you do that to us. We go off the rails.
Yeah. Well,
that is our MO, is to go off the rails.
I still think that there's a way I can do it. I just think there's probably too much effort involved in doing it, by drilling it out a little bit and this, that, and the other. To me, it's not necessary.
It's all about what you want that building to be. I mean, I can see a place for having a bunch of buildings that don't have interiors in them. I'm gonna have some on my layout. I mean, I've got a whole wall full of flats now. Some of them I put lights on the outside, and I even cut out and made it look like they were deeper and put lights inside.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of them that are just the flat.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, and if you look at all of Boomer's flats, I know everyone here is bound to be watching Boomer. All of his stuff is made out of plywood.
Yeah.
He makes it out of plywood, then puts the plastic styrene on top of it. This is no different. The only difference is it's a solid chunk of 2x4.
Well, all my flats are foam core board, and then with a paper printed on the printer, glued to the front of it, and make a little roof for it, and might add lights on it or something like that. But they're pretty simple. But I'm after the overall look. I'm not really looking for fine detail stuff like that all the time. Well, I just got the notification that Bill's trying to shove us off the channel. So that's our
Heath says that even
we're out
his
of time.
building flats have interiors. Heath goes all out and puts interiors in his building flats.
Does he put flat interiors in his building flats?
Yeah.
And if you haven't seen it, and I don't know what episode it's on, it's been a while back, but Toy Man and his wife Karen, she likes to do forced perspective flats interiors, and it's amazing. Now they're working in 1/20th scale, so they've got a lot bigger thing to work with. It's 1/20th scale is like Garden Railroad size.
Oh, okay.
And but she does these flats are only like 2 inches deep, but they look like a full size building. They're really cool.
Yeah, it's easier to do that when it's that big.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it'd be tough to do an HO scale. But anyway, we're out of time, guys. Thanks for everybody in the chat showing up. You guys remember the meet and greet up in Greeley, Colorado, May 19th to 21st. So if you're able to get there or live in that area, get up there and see everybody. I wish I could be there. Like I say, I'm just hoping to make the narrow gauge convention. Anyway, Steve and Bill and Jerry and Dennis, thanks.
Well, have a good day.
And I won't be here next week. Dennis is going to be running the show the next 2 weeks. I'm going to go on a cruise. So I'll think about y'all while I'm out there enjoying the cruise.
Yeah, you do that.
Yeah. Anyway, you guys have a good 2 weeks, and I'll see you in 3.
See you
Bye.
Later.
Take care, everybody.